Hey, yo, welcome back to the Boston Sports Brothers podcast. Kind of changing gears this evening to the Boston Music Brothers podcast, perhaps, as we have Sampson Hellerman, full disclosure, family member and drummer of the band Ripe, fantastic band out of Boston. And we're going to talk to Sam just about the band's background, their connections to Boston, how they've intersected with sports over the course of their tenure. And Sam, can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. What's going on?
Man, stoked to be here. Obviously you're my cousin, so I'd do anything for you. But I also, I'm a Boston sports fan and love what you guys are doing. So I'm just stoked to be here.
And with that being said, gentlemen, how are you guys tonight? Coming off the long weekend, a loaded sports weekend, which we'll get into later on in the episode for sure.
It was
Yeah, fun. It
great.
was a great
How are
week.
you?
Good to see everybody. All right, Sam, let's dive into it. I think the first thing is maybe there are some listeners who don't know too much about Ripe and your origin story of meeting at Berklee College in Boston. So give us a little bit of background in terms of how you guys came together back when you were at Berklee and the formation of the band back then.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we all got to Berkeley in 2011, and I went there with a guy who I'd grown up with, and we wanted to start a band. And we weren't living in the dorms at the time, so we didn't know how to meet people at the time other than to have these like open door house parties. So, we're all like 18, 19 years old. I'd post on like class of 2015 Facebook Berkeley group, like, party at 54 Gainsborough Street, like everybody come by, bring everybody, It's like a 500 square foot apartment, like tiny apartment. We'd pack like 100 plus people in there. And we actually all met on like the first weekend of school. And I met Robbie, who's our lead singer, and John, who's our guitar player, and Calvin, trombone player. We all met kind of right away. And when you first get to Berkeley, everyone's like, "Oh, you want to make music? You want to make music? Let's do this, let's do that." So we did that and really liked the song we made, put it out on SoundCloud, and it had a nice little moment in the Berkeley scene. So we just kind of kept going, and here we are 12 years later, somehow still grinding it out.
Magic carpet ride for sure over those 12 years.
I don't even want to say that number 12, but it has been that long, just about 13 maybe.
Wow.
What year is it? 2020, is it 14 years? Oh, God.
2029?
Oh, jeez, man.
Samson, Gabe here.
Man.
Love Ripe. Josh has turned me on to Ripe ever since you guys kind of first came out. It's the type of music where your friend goes, "Hey, check out this band. Like you'll love them," and you listen to them a few times, and like you're like, "Oh yeah, they're all right." But like this one actually stuck, and like I'm an avid Ripe listener, and I really appreciate what you guys do. The music is beautiful. But moving on from that, how has your journey been since Berkeley? I mean, Boston is kind of a small city. You're now in LA, as you told us before. How's your journey been since Boston?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's there's like 2.5 places to live as a real working musician in the industry. It's, LA, Nashville, and New York. But I think some people would argue that that's not even really a hub at this point. So when we graduated, everybody we knew went to Nashville or LA, and a couple of people to New York. And I don't know, I can't put myself in, the moment in 2015 to remember the moment where we said we're going to stay in Boston. But it was just, we were kind of riding a wave, and leaving didn't make sense at the time. Our biggest market was the Northeast. We were doing a lot of gigs, just kind of all around the area. And it never really made sense. And then so, a year goes by, 2 years go by, all of a sudden people are in relationships and life is sort of evolving. And all of a sudden we've all lived in Boston for, almost 10 years. And it's hard to just sort of say, all right, let's go somewhere else. We so deeply identify as a Boston band. And I think at that point we all kind of felt like real Boston residents. And then, so we did a lot of touring in those years. We were barely ever in Boston. But when we would come home, we'd come home to Boston. And then after COVID or during COVID, some of the people who had stuck around after Berklee, which was very few people, but a couple of our friends who did, they all started picking up and moving to LA. I think it was just kind of like, as I'm sure you guys all had in your lives with COVID, it's like this weird moment to evaluate things that you didn't have time to evaluate before you had nothing to do for hours and hours on end. And I think we just kind of realized in that time that it was time, and that Boston is a small city and we've all eaten at every restaurant, that has ever existed since 2011 in Boston. And I think we just sort of found our limit there. And, and you think about Los Angeles, it's this, not to be dramatic, but it is kind of a land of opportunity when it comes to the entertainment industries. And so we just sort of bit the bullet. We just kind of did it. And until about a week and a half ago, I was pretty stoked about that. I was having a great time. Now all of a sudden, everything's on fire and the air might be poisonous. I don't know. Boston's looking pretty good right now, but yeah.
Seriously.
Good stuff. I mean, I've seen the evolution of the band from a up close standpoint for, as we talked about, 12, 14, however many years ago, since a night at the Middle East in Cambridge with maybe 20 other folks that were there to MGM Music Hall with 5,000 people there over the course of that time. Like, it's been to see it up close and personal has been absolutely incredible. And as you said, like, you gotta sort of go where the band needs to go over the course of time.
Yeah.
But J-Matt, take us into the next question, which I
Yeah.
think we'll get into some good stuff.
Hey, Samson. J
Sure.
Matt here. Thanks for taking the time to be on our pod. We really appreciate it.
Happy.
So as Plotty said, you've had shows at the Middle East. You've had shows at the MGM Grand. I'm sure you've had shows, even bigger shows that you've played. And you had the behind the scenes kind of house parties back in Gainsborough Street, like you mentioned. Are there any stories that stick out to you that have been meant a lot to you throughout the time that you've been with Ray?
A lot of stories, yeah. I don't even know where to begin. But I think that it's hard to not sort of see the band in, I hate to use the term eras, but kind of eras in a way,
Okay, Taylor.
And
I was gonna say.
yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, I mean, there's been moments along the way where it's like, oh, this thing is really hard right now. And I think a lot of people would walk in those moments. And, I can think of a couple, like one right when we were graduating, a couple of the guys who had been playing in the band in college, they just sort of wanted to do something else. And so, I remember very specifically a meeting in one of our apartments where I was like, all right, like, now's the moment. If you want to walk and if you don't want to be here, like, now's the time. And, everybody stayed, and it was this real moment, like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to go do this thing. And, 3 months later, we had an agent, we really started making a career. And so I think that, there's been these moments, like I think about COVID as well. I mean, we were really brought to our knees, it was like we had every reason to say we gave it our best shot. We tried, and now we're at this point where we need to walk, and we just refuse to break up. Like, it's this band's greatest strength is we just like we refuse to, like, stop doing it. And so I think about those moments, and those moments come in smaller ways now, especially in the post-COVID era of touring. Like, everything is really different. I mean, a lot of people don't think about COVID much anymore, but we're still thinking about it every time we book a tour, because people don't buy concert tickets the way they used to. So the whole industry's really changed. So to answer your question, I think it's those like really affirming moments of resilience that have happened throughout the 12 to 14 years that we've been a band that really stick with me and sort of remind me, yeah, like there really is something here, and the proof is kind of in the pudding, like we we just won't walk away from it. So that it has to mean something.
It's a testament to the band. And having become friends with obviously some of the other guys in the band, like, and having discussions with you, I've seen those moments from afar. But I've also seen like the opportunities to get to hang out with you while we're at those tours or while we're out there, and like it's the guys in the band that make the band. Like it's the fact it's doing what we're doing now, that we could do with any of the other guys that are in the band. And so it's like to see it, like, people admire you as the band, but then know you as I know you. It's just like it's a paradigm of, I don't even get it sometimes. But you got, as you said, you stuck through it. I think we going a little bit more behind the scenes in terms of how the band works. Big E, take it away.
Yeah, I think anytime you talk about like process, everyone has a different process on how you develop a song, write an album. You talk a little bit about how you guys have developed your process over time and where that kind of started and where you guys are now as you guys are continuing to develop and come out with fantastic new music piece after piece.
Yeah, you guys write good questions. Like, back in high school when you have to like write questions for, whoever's coming in. You guys must have done good because you guys got good questions.
We're not that smart. Don't give us that. Don't give us credit.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's definitely changed a lot. When we first started, we wrote maybe 8 songs in the first 2.5 years of the band. Like, it was kind of a struggle to crank out material. It was very precious. We were very precious about it. And then, when we got out of school and we all moved into a house together, on Cambridge Street in Alston. It was like the worst house ever. The night I moved in, this
so gross.
huge rat just ran across the living room. I was like, we're in it now. We're in it now.
In Austin, yeah.
Rat City.
It's true. It really is Rat City. But we had a basement and we had a little, rehearsal setup down there. And we started getting in a real flow of writing together. There was 7 of us in the band at the time, and the 7 of us would go down in the basement and we would just yell at each other for 3 hours, and then there would be a song, and it was so intense. It was, and most of our first record was written that way, and it was intense. It was just young 20s egos slamming into each other all over the place. And I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I'm so glad we had that experience. And I think through that, we really kind of learned to talk to each other in, respectful ways. So we did that for a long time. And then once we all moved out of that house, it was an interesting moment in the band. We switched management. So this is probably about 2018. And we had some buddies from Berklee who were actually used to be our trumpet and saxophone subs. So if our horn players couldn't do a gig, these 2 guys would come. And they were living out here in LA, writing with a lot of pop artists, really dope pop producers now. I mean, the credits to their names are, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to blow them up, but dudes are really doing big shit now. And we kind of had the idea at the time, what if we sent a couple guys from the band out to write with these 2 guys? Let's just see what happens. We've never done a co-write before. We've never collaborated on songwriting. We don't have this basement to, write songs in anymore. What if we just tried this? And that yielded the song First Time Feeling, which is, probably one of my favorite songs of ours. And I think currently our top song on Spotify. So it was a very successful endeavor. And I think there was a lot from that ended up fueling the LA move, because I think we got a real taste for enjoying that collaborative process and working with these people. And, our buddies who we went to work with, they're 2 of hundreds of thousands of people who are doing that out here. So it got in our minds oh, okay. I mean, what if that became part of our daily lives? We're just doing sessions with these people. If we live there, we can do that. So sure enough, we came out here and we write so much music now. Like the demo folder in our Dropbox is like stuffed to the brim of stuff
people
that
are gonna
nobody's
love-
ever heard, that, you know, we can sort of be like, all right, so we're making a record, let's go into that folder and we can just take songs that we like, or we can keep writing new songs. And now, you know, we've spent the last few years kind of doing exclusively the collaborative co-writing, and now we're sort of coming back around to wanting to get in the room, just the band again. So we actually have a writing trip in Tahoe booked for early March. So we're just going to go up and, you know, set up for a week and just write some music. So that all to say, we just kind of, we want to do it in as many different ways as possible, because it feels like at bats, you know, I mean, it literally just feels like a chance to hit the ball. And I'm not just saying that because this is a sports podcast. Like, that's really how, you know, we talk about that in those terms a lot. It's like, you know, the more at bats you get, the more you're, you know, the more you're inching towards hitting a home run. So that's kind of where we're at now.
It's so cool that you guys started doing this like together, have worked with some co-collaborators that are now kind of veering back towards doing it yourself after like the experience of working with those co-collaborators. So really, really excited to see what that trip yields for you guys, and hopefully some new music coming from you guys sooner rather than later, because we're all stoked to hear new stuff from you guys as soon as you guys have it.
I won't say much because I'd get in trouble, but March 21st. March 21st.
Ooh.
So that like pretty much Eric stole my question, but Samson, this is the other Sam. You'll always hear that at every show in Boston. You'll be like, "Oh, there's Sam," just yelling my name. Anyways, same thing as Gabe said. Like, down at URI, Plotty was I don't know you, Plotty. What year was that? Azalea 2013 or something. You know, we went to Ocean Mist to you know, see your shows, and then it just kind of evolved, and like now you're on my work jams playlist when I'm at work, and like, you know, you're one of my top artists this year. So I mean, yeah, I love the music that you guys have, and I know you can't say much, but if you can sprinkle any details about March 31st, I mean it's 21st.
Yeah. I mean, the last year we've been putting something together, you know, that we're really, really excited about. It's really a collection of basically our time here in LA so far. And we got to work with a really amazing producer out here who, you know, we just did it in a really cool way. I will tell one cool story, you know, so we were recording this album that at least a song is coming out on March 21st. That's actually all I know. So I'm not even like holding back. Like, we do have a record and we're going to put out a single on March 21st, and, you know, we're leading towards that. But we were recording at this legendary place in LA called Sunset Sound Studios. I mean, like, Zeppelin 2 recorded there, Exile on Main Street, you know, like classic place. And so we got to spend a couple weeks recording there with this guy. And one day there's 3 studios, and there's this little basketball court. There's just like a little courtyard that sort of is the common area of all the studios. And we're out there one day, and like Neil Young just walks by, and we're playing horse. We're literally playing horse. Like, that's what we would do when we weren't tracking. And Neil Young comes by, and he just makes a comment about how bad we all are at basketball. And he was around. He was in the studio next to us for like a week and a half. And so we'd be out there playing horse, and him and Steven Stills from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, they were both there. And they'd be just sitting on like the little picnic tables. Steven Stills just like smoking cigarettes, and Neil Young's just like shitting on us for like sucking at basketball. And it was the most like surreal, weird experience.
That's wild.
But I mean, so cool. And so making the album, while always challenging in its own way, was an amazing experience, and I'm very stoked for people to hear it.
As we are.
Yeah, March 21st. I think I don't know. I don't want to say anything.
So close.
Yeah.
Put it in your calendar.
Put it,
yes, certainly mark it on your calendar.
I'm gonna be getting like texts from my managers when this goes up. They'll be like, dude, we weren't supposed to tell people yet.
You heard it here first.
Exclusive on the Boston Sports Brothers podcast.
I hope you guys don't have too many viewers. Oh man.
Maybe this will take things to another level for us. But listening to the past half hour or so we've been talking, I think there's some parallels between the band and the podcast. It's a different stage of life for us, but I think that's been one unique thing as well. And I've thought about as we've gotten this podcast going and what your process was, and it's friends first, that are like entering this new venture, and you have no fucking clue where you're going sometimes. There's these checkpoints that you sort of talked about where it's like, where are we? Where are we going? What's sort of next? We're more in our infancy stage here, but I think that you can I think what you said, like the bond of the people that are doing it together is what keeps it going. I know between the five of us that we feel the same way that you, Robbie, John, and Calvin, and now Yogi and Alonzo feel as well.
Yeah.
One thing I want to actually have a question for the guys from the pod before we get into the lightning round. Any Ripe memories that stick out to you? Any shows, any moments over the course of our time as fans? I think we've, between collectively amongst us, have to have been to at least 50 plus shows. So anything that sticks out. Kraz has his hand up.
Yeah. And it wasn't even a Ripe show. It was more of like an interaction. I was with my brother. We were at Mansfield. I think it was 2018 or 2017, Dead and Company. And there's only two people that like I know, even if one of them is by proxy, with an afro that large. And that's Max Weinstein and Robbie from Ripe. And I'm walking with my brother and we're at a Dead show. So, make your own assumptions. And I see this huge afro and I'm like, oh man, and then I look and I'm like, oh, that's Robbie from Ripe. So like I go up to him and I'm like, oh, you're Robbie from Ripe. And he's probably thinking to himself, oh man, here comes someone else like to ask me about, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, I'm your drummer's cousin's friend. And he's like, oh, Sampson? And I was like, yeah. He's like, he was down there. Do you want to talk to him? And I was like, oh, no. I just wanted to come and say hi. I just walked on with my brother and it was a good show.
Down, man.
I should have. It was a lawn and we were just getting in, but yeah, no, that was I had to throw that out there. That Dead show at Mansfield. It was quite a show.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun night.
Yeah.
I also remember MGM getting back in the green room after a show. I don't know what year that was.
23.
23, yeah.
2023, we were back there. That was a lot. It was cool just seeing like the background of MGM and also just like chilling with the band members afterwards, and it's kind of like a surreal experience. You're just like where am I right now? This is kind of cool, but it's just like food everywhere, booze everywhere, anything you wanted, you had in the green room back there.
That was a good night, and credit to our tour manager Nijo for making sure those green room parties are well stocked.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
J-Matt, Biggie.
Yeah, I think for me the obvious one is New Year's Eve last year at Roadrunner. Such an unbelievable show. I think New Year's can be either like a holiday that you want to go out for and rage and party for, or at this point maybe I'm just old and they just want to just chill in and not do much. But going to a concert is definitely something I've never done before for New Year's Eve, and absolute unbelievable show. You guys put on such an amazing show, had such a great time. So want to throw that out as just one of my all-time favorite memories in general. Just going to any show.
And those neon suits.
Top moment. Yeah, you guys totally were dressed to the nines.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was a lot of fun. That was a great
was
time.
Was that the balloon drop too?
Yeah. Balloon drop. Yep. So that was a good night. Fun night.
It was.
Yeah, we come from the world of at least a handful of us going to Fish shows on New Year's Eve, and it was that was always the safest way to do New Year's Eve, because you knew you were gonna have a good time because it was in the band's hands. You just kind of have to ride the wave, and you'll have a good New Year's Eve. So I think a concert's a good way to spend New Year's.
We've all rode the Ripe wave a few times over the course of our years. That I think one of the memory that sticks out to me is actually very recently being out. I've usually seen you guys obviously here in the Northeast at multiple different venues, but being out in California a couple months ago and seeing you in San Diego and just seeing like a different fan base, a different venue than I've been to previously, and to see like the bands have a whole set of fans that exists on a whole separate coast and filling up a room like that was awesome, and that was an awesome night as well. So I think it's
Oh,
we go ahead, Gabe. Yeah.
I got an upcoming ripe show
Oh
that I'm
yes, you
very
do.
excited about.
Oh,
That I hope everyone will be joining me at in
oh yeah.
Hartford, Connecticut,
Capital
with
Groove.
Krungbin and Steel Pulse
Wow.
and all.
That
It's a
Saturday
really
is gonna
nice
be
lineup
fucking
out there.
What a crew.
fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be a lot of fun. We were stoked about that one coming down. We actually, it hasn't announced yet, but we just got a really fun looking gig in Portland, Maine in August. I
Oh,
think
wow.
it's like Lord Huron and someone else, but another great New England. I mean, you guys know as a we'll be at all the usual New England haunts in
Yeah.
July and August. But
I've seen you guys in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, like all these like just random little breweries like outside in the middle like of December, like we're all freezing our ass off, but then
yeah,
ripe comes on and we're just like you immediately get warm,
Dance
like you just start
time.
dancing and having a great time. I love that stuff.
yeah, man, it's actually a bummer that Cisco, that was the Cisco brewery in
Cisco,
Portsmouth,
yeah.
and they're shutting down that location,
Oh man.
Bummer.
which is a huge bummer. I mean, we played there probably like 6 or 7 times at this point. Like that was a very regular spot for us. We were kind of bummed to hear that.
Yeah.
You bring up that show and that venue, and this comes to mind, a little intersection with sports. The Greg Hill Foundation and the Greg Hill Show. How did that relationship sort of originate and being a part of that event a couple of years ago that was up at that Cisco in Portsmouth?
Yeah, I mean, our agent Jason, he's, you know, I don't know if he would bonk me on the head for calling him a philanthropist, but like, he's really involved in a lot of charities. He's just a really good guy who's, got his heart and head in the right place, and that's allowed him to get the band in the right place. And, we're happy to do anything that we can that, he sends our way. So, it's really through him. He's kind of our knight in shining armor. He's the glue that keeps it all together.
Takes a team. That's the point of the show when Robbie says and points at this person and thank this person. So that's
real.
it takes a village for sure. All right,
Yeah.
let's move things into the lightning round here, where we'll sort of wrap things up. Sam, it's been an awesome discussion, and appreciate it. I think there's a lot of nuggets of information that Ripe fans are gonna like out of the last 30 minutes. So, and probably a few more out of this. Gabe, kick us off in the lightning round.
All right. First question here. Favorite song to play, we'll say ripe song and then non-ripe song.
Probably favorite Ripe song to play. Probably Talk to the Moon. It's just, there's a lot of different drumming things happening in that song. It goes a lot of places. So it's a real, it's a nice mental workout for me playing that one. My favorite cover that we do, I mean, probably Who Are You by The Who. I mean, just the chance to go full Keith Moon for a couple minutes is, a lot of fun for me. I definitely come from like the classic rock drummers, John Bonham, Keith Moon, these guys who are, the real rock and rollers. So I like playing that one.
It leads perfectly into our next question.
Yeah, so who is your favorite drummer growing up?
Yeah, I mean, it changed. Obviously, it changed, but there's a couple guys that I have a top five, so I'll give my top five. The Steves, I call them the Steves because both their names Steve. Steve Gadd, who's, if you never heard the name, he's on a lot of the Steely Dan stuff. He's on a lot of Paul Simon stuff. He's just like legendary studio drummer. Amazing drummer. I mean, go listen to 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon. That drum groove's ridiculous. So Steve Gadd, Steve Jordan, who's currently the drummer in the Rolling Stones, but you guys might know most from the John Mayer trio, but he's been around like since the 80s. I mean, he's done a lot. He's been on so much stuff. Amazing guy who's just known for his groove. I mean, he really holds it down. John Bonham, Led Zeppelin, gotta have it. It always messes me up around here. But I have to say Taylor Hawkins, Foo Fighters. I mean, I spent a lot of time in my basement growing up playing along the Foo Fighters. I mean, he's a beast. He was a real force. And then I'm gonna give it to Levon Helm from the band. He just, man, talk about tasteful playing. That dude just really, he made the drums sing. So that's my top 5 today on January 20th, 2025.
Subject to change.
Subject to change. Something that can also be subject to change, because I think, this is something that will change with time, is, what's your favorite venue?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not just saying, but it's hard to not say MGM. I think that was the best night of my musical and career life. I mean, you can't put it into words. If you watch the video, I'm just like crying the whole time. Like I'm a mess the whole time. And thank God we didn't even know that we were going to be turning it into a live album. We had no clue. Which thank God, because we would have been, it just would have felt completely different. But so it's hard not to say MGM, but there's a lot of really great venues all around the world. And obviously, as they get bigger, they get, in a lot of ways, a lot more wonderful. But man, there's some small clubs out there, like, the Chicken Box is real near and dear to my heart. Well, I think I probably lost about 10 years of my life, doing 10 years at the Chicken Box. I just love that place.
So I'll jump in. I do have to say the Levon Helm studio is pretty gnarly, but
Yeah, I've never been.
No, you haven't. My brother's tried to invite me to a couple of shows up there, and I need to do it next time. Any sports venues you hope to play at? Or what would be your top sports venue to play at?
I mean, I think that playing Fenway Park would be, what do you even say? What do you even
Wild.
say? Yeah. I mean, I think there's something about the classic ballparks like Wrigley. I think there's something about the classic ballparks that really excites me. Like, don't get me wrong. I think playing stadiums would be amazing. I mean, it's hard to even sort of talk about, but arenas feel a little more like, oh yeah, okay, like I could see it. And for me, while I'm a Boston sports fan to the end, I did grow up in New York City, and Madison Square Garden. That's it, man. That's the venue. You know what I mean? You get there, for me, that's it. It's
the Mecca, right? They call it the Mecca for a reason.
What's that?
They call it the Mecca for a reason.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I love going there so much. And I was just there in late December for Fish, and love going to Rangers games. I love going to Knicks games. I just love being there, like more than whoever is playing, whether it's sports or music. Like I love the Garden. It's just a great place to be.
Great times over the years at Madison Square Garden. I think y'all have played the theater there, right? That's right next door. So
yeah, we did.
Next step is to play there. But in terms of, you were talking about some great things that are coming up for the band. So we'll wrap up on this. Where can folks that may not know about you, want to learn more about the band, find more information? What are the social handles? Where can they find info about upcoming tours and music? Give us the lowdown.
Sorry, I got this. I've been dog sitting this pit bull that's having a little bit of an episode right now. But so if you can't hear
we're almost done.
Yeah. So Ripe Love on Instagram, just Ripe Love, the name of the band, word love. I think right now, especially with TikTok a little bit in flux, Instagram is the best place to go figure out what we're doing. We do have ripetheband.com as well. I don't know the last time I went to a website, but there it is. But yeah, I'd say Instagram right now is the place to look. So Ripe Love, we're definitely active on there, and I personally run a lot of it. So if you DM us, so probably go to me. So only nice things, and yeah, check us out. Hey, take it easy, bud. Take it
All
easy.
right. Well, look at that. What a perfect way to wrap it up. Check out Ripe Love on Instagram. Sam has a little dog. He's got to
It's not a little dog.
A big
Little
dog.
dog?
Big dogs.
Absolute hippo. I got a hippo living in my house right now.
It's probably a hungry hippo right now.
It's a hungry hippo. It's a very sweet hippo, but it's just big.
Excellent. Sam, can't thank you enough for jumping on. Really appreciate your time. It's always great to talk Ripe with you, and great to recount some of our memories over the course of years. And you gave us a lot of fantastic insights and information into the band. I think a lot of people enjoy this part of the episode, and can't thank you enough. Say hello to all the guys. Stay safe out there in California, and we will see you soon down the line.
Boys, thanks for having me. Go Bees, go C's, and enjoy the rest of the episode, and hopefully see you guys soon.
Love you, brother.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Sam.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay safe
Thank you,
out there.
Sam. Be safe, my friend.
Yep.
All right, good stuff. Sam Hellerman from Ripe. Really appreciate his time. This episode, I'm wearing my RHODY hat here. We got JV from URI, a loaded guest episode. But fellas, let's do a little bit of NFL playoff recap right now and talk about the weekend that was. And then when JV jumps on, we'll talk with him a little college basketball and URI. We'll wrap up any around town that we need to wrap up and wrap up the episode. So J-Matt, Big E, whoever wants to fucking kick us off with NFL playoffs. Kraz looks like he's chomping at the bit.
Clearly the game of the weekend was Baltimore and Buffalo. I was pulling for Houston. Houston was close. They were close, but the refs again. I mean, I don't know if this is what other fans say, because one of our friends said to us, "Oh, see, this is what it feels like." Blah 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 blah. So I don't know if it's the Mahomes effect and that's just how it happens, but I don't know, man. That guy got so many fucking calls. I feel. I'm not trying to be a Brady homer, but what do you guys feel?
I kind of want to think. I think that the Eagles versus Rams game might have been the best game of the week. I love that game. I thought the snow was incredible. Just to see the snow and see a West Coast team just absolutely shit their pants in the weather and just can't move the ball, can't do anything. It was clear as day, which was kind of weird though, because in the fourth quarter late when they had to move the ball, they were able to. But
yeah, I was gonna say
when push came to shove and when it was really snowing heavily, they couldn't do anything. And I thought that game had everything you wanted. It was teams that were trying to lose that game. I mean, Jalen Hurts got hurt. I thought his knee was pretty bad, but he seemed to do well. It was a crazy game, and it was just to me that was the game of the week to me, personally, in my opinion. But they were great. I mean, I thought it was a great.
They were all crazy.
It was a great week.
Great week. Yeah, I want to flip it. I want to go to Saturday night's game with Detroit and the Commanders. First of all, I think for all of us, like as Patriots fans, where your team's not really good right now. Remember, the Washington Commanders were in a similar spot last year. They found the right guy in Jaden Daniels, and I don't think you can argue if he was the right guy. He's looking like the best quarterback out of this class. Played out of his mind. Washington completely dominated the Lions, and I understand the Lions have had a lot of injuries and such, but like it's football. This stuff happens. Like, got to give credit where credit is due, and Washington looks poised, and it's kind of fun to have a little divisional matchup in the NFC Championship game coming up. And I think we're all excited to see Kansas City and Buffalo duke it on out for the AFC. I think we're all sick of one of those teams representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I'm collectively pulling here for Buffalo. But,
no more Taylor Swift.
But just in general, I think I wasn't really even thinking about this matchup at the beginning of the season, but Buffalo and Washington has like a lot of appeal to me. I think that was a rematch of the 1991 Super Bowl, like part of that stretch where the Bills went 4 in a row and lost. So could be kind of interesting to see that kind of rematch, like 30 some odd years later.
Gabe, any takeaways?
I don't know if that matchup would move the needle for me. It sounds pretty horrible, but
disagree, but
it's no 6 to midnight.
You're not getting the best ratings on that matchup. I'll tell you that. NFL will be losing money.
I don't want Philly to go. I hate Philly.
You know that you got to follow the script.
I know.
My biggest takeaway, I watched the Eagles-Rams game the most. That's the game that interested me the most. Snow game was, like Josh said, was awesome. Saquon Barkley, that's
Unbelievable.
The running
So
back
good.
you want in that weather. Like he rushed for over 200 yards. He continues to just power that Eagles offense. I don't know where they'd be without him, actually. Like I don't think they would maybe even be in this position right now without him. But yeah, excited for the Eagles Commanders matchup coming up. Do you guys have Eric mentioned one Super Bowl matchup that he may like to see, but do you guys have any others that you would prefer?
I think that honestly, you can't. There are four teams that are left are all great, and I don't think you really can go wrong with any of the matchups that could be. But I think that I think Philly versus Kansas City would be great, and I hope that Philly would be able to do it. But I also think that the Bills getting there and Josh Allen, finally trying to get over the hump would be a really good story. So I think, and then you get the Jaden Daniels like rookie quarterback taking the team, almost not worse, but like what? They were almost the worst team last year, and
They were
second
second
pick.
worst. Yeah,
Second
to potentially a Super Bowl winning team. Like there's a lot of like this, like you said, Gabe, like they have to follow the script. I think there's like many ways that the script could be written with all the teams that are left. It's pretty good.
Shout out to Dan Snyder.
There's a lot. I think, as we said, like the combination of teams that could reach the Super Bowl was great. Taking a look at, we mentioned Saquon Barkley. Got to give credit to Jake Elliott hitting 3 field goals in that kind of weather. It didn't come down to it, but it was Vinatieri-like, where they're scraping they're trying to kick the snow off the field and create a spot for him to be able to kick. Jalen Carter was a beast. I think he really saved the game for Philly when he sacked Stafford on that 3rd down. So that to me was the game of the week. The most surprising result was certainly the Detroit game, but Jaden Daniels, unbelievable, as we mentioned. And I think those injuries finally caught up to Detroit on the defensive side. News from today, Ben Johnson takes that coaching job with the Bears. So he's no longer in Detroit. So they're going to have to retool there on that side. Lamar Jackson shits his pants once again. Like he talk about a player who can't do it in the playoffs. He is a divisional round out almost every year. That fumble he had was absolutely pathetic. Like, go ahead, Biggie.
No, I was going to say, it's just really interesting that you have that take on him, because I don't disagree. But, he has the same record in playoffs that Peyton Manning has through his first 7 years. So I'm just saying that, the door is not shut for him, but I agree. Like, he poops his pants year after year, but Peyton Manning did for a long time too. And, eventually he broke through. Will Lamar Jackson? I don't know.
Mark Andrews dropped the tying point. I mean, come on. He couldn't have thrown the ball any more perfect. That game should have been going to OT, but neither here nor there.
No. Blame Harbaugh. Harbaugh went for 2 points earlier in the game that got snuffed out. Could have gone for the extra PAT. If he didn't do that, then you had an extra PAT at the end of the game. Boom, tied. He screwed himself. And you want to Mark Andrews deserves to feel some of the blame. So blame his coach for a bad coaching decision before you blame him.
Yeah, for sure. Very valid points. I think the divisional round for NFL always delivers. Usually very, very competitive games, which for the most part it was. And I think, as we talked about, sets up for a great matchup. Unfortunately, the parallels between the Chiefs and the Patriots of 10 years ago and their runs are just, it's pretty remarkable how they've gone back to back. I only have to imagine that every fan base, feels the way they do now about the Chiefs, like they did the Patriots back in the day. So thank God for us to be able to get to root for the team that was in that position.
So, Josh, and I think this is an interesting thing to call out. The Patriots were always going against the grain, not getting the calls. The Chiefs are constantly getting the calls. That game on Saturday, how many times did they get calls for ticky-tacky, like roughing the passer call that, if that was any other team in the league, any other 31 teams, they would not have gotten that call. So, I think, there are parallels between Kansas City and the Patriots, but I think that's one big thing that I'd like to call out a big difference on, because they're getting helped at every single level by the NFL.
I don't mean to switch it from the NFL, but one game that's on as we speak is the college national championship. Notre Dame taking on Ohio State. I don't have an updated. I don't even know if they've kicked off yet.
7:30 is the kickoff.
They have 0-0, just a few minutes in.
0-0.
Just started.
Of course, 7:30 kickoff, and they just start now.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it last week a little bit on the podcast, but this is a pretty good national championship in my opinion. Part of me wants to say Ohio State's gonna keep riding that momentum of losing to Michigan in that big game and kind of just take it all the way to a national championship. But Notre Dame's also a really good team. They've got a great defense and could kind of counter Ohio State's offense. So I think it's gonna be a close game. I hope it'll be a good game. I'm excited to watch a little bit.
I like the coach too for Notre Dame, Freeman.
Yeah.
I think he's a great coach. I like what he stands for and how he coaches. So yeah, I think I hope Notre Dame does it. I'm never really been a big Irish fan, but I honestly thought at the beginning of the year, I looked at their schedule. I thought it was a pretty weak schedule. I didn't think it was anything that was like a very heavy schedule. I didn't think they could go this far. And they're clearly a really solid team and they put a great program together. So I hope they do it. I think it'd be a good story.
I think we've been very fortunate with the final matchup that we have. Two very prestigious programs. I mean, I can't remember the last time Notre Dame was really up for a national championship, and they were one of those perennial teams from decades ago. So it's good to see them back there. And I think with Michigan winning last year and seeing Ohio State back in the mix this year, it just kind of says that the Big Ten is you're not as bad as everyone thinks it is. Everyone is all about the SEC, and lo and behold, there's no SEC team in the final this year. Weird.
Well,
Very
I mean,
weird.
does that have to do with the fact that, is this the first year that, colleges are actually able to offer players money, or are we a few years into that now?
I think, well, this
Couple
is really
years now, I think.
yeah, but I think this is the first year where like all the movement sort of happened after the first year. So it definitely makes an impact and evens the playing field a little bit. I mean, you can't tell me that Nick Saban and these other guys weren't offering them a fucking Mustang or Corvette or something under the table before
for
this
sure.
all
Yeah.
came into play.
Reggie Bush.
Here's a free gift on us.
Right.
$1,000 gift cards to Best Buy.
Give Reggie back his Heisman.
For real.
Yeah.
Reinstate all that nonsense. I mean, to be quite honest,
They did give Reggie back his
right.
Heisman.
Right.
They did. Yeah, they did.
We
A lot
probably
of
covered
reinstating today. That's for sure.
Oh boy.
Title ceremony.
we made it 56 minutes without any talk, so I don't know if we're gonna go through it.
So good.
Quite the day. And bring it back to the college football game. Like I do think that it kind of got buried with the NFL playoffs, full slate of NBA today. Obviously, all the political things that are going on this weekend. That the playoff game and championship was tonight. So will be great to go tune into that once we wrap up the episode. We got JV who's going to be jumping on any second from URI, which we'll dive into that. But we had a couple Patriots nuggets as well that trickled out. So J-Matt, why don't you take us through the Patriots nuggets real quick? Any updates now that Coach Rabel is a week into the tenure and starting to make some moves in terms of how things are going to go with the coaching staff?
Yeah, so I think Vrabel's he's making his mark. He's putting his stamp on the envelope, or I guess so to say. So Gabe, I think you might have put this together. So what did he do this week?
So it's just I mean, nothing major. There's just a lot of coaching changes going on right now. Rabel brought in a couple guys, a couple tight ends assistants that he worked with when he was the head coach over there. This one guy that raised a little flag to me, John Streecher. Stretcher is apparently Stretcher. Take him out on the stretcher.
That's the guy Cadlick called Stretch.
Okay. So he's like he's kind of like apparently the Ernie Adams-esque type role that will be coming into the Patriots organization as their research director. So that's kind of exciting. They're starting to form a path, I think, to figuring out how to get better in the draft and to create formulas for the offense to do better. So speaking of offense, they still have not signed an offensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels is the name that like everyone seems to be talking about, but there's like no news on really. They did interview a couple guys, Thomas Brown and Marcus Brady, which I mean, I would probably like Marcus Brady over Thomas Brown, but that's just my opinion.
I've heard that he's Vrabel's got some ties to guys that are on the Rams right now as well. So with them just being out, like you start interviewing them. I'm not saying it will be LaFleur because I know that he has a relationship with him. He was with him with Tennessee, and kind of exciting, honestly, to hear that someone maybe
Mhm.
from the McVay offensive tree might be someone coming on over. I love Josh McDaniels. I think he's still a good option, but I don't want to just anoint it to him. I want it to be an interview process. So kind of interested to hear who they interview this week with some of those teams being eliminated over the weekend.
They absolutely need to pick from that Rams
Yes.
Yeah.
organization because
The West Coast offense.
that offensive program has been so lethal, I think, since, it's been a long time now, and they've drafted well. They've had great receivers. They found a good quarterback, kind of similar to Drake May, I would say. Good comparison, Matthew Stafford.
It was lethal. It was lethal with Goff too. So like if Goff and Stafford could do well in it, Drake May could certainly do well in it as well.
Absolutely.
And go ahead, Gabe.
I mean, there's a few other nuggets. Like they've released some coaches, some offensive line coaches have moved on to Cincinnati. Have fun with them. I don't know who would want any of our offensive line coaches. Robin Glazer is she resigns. She's I mean, we can talk about it a little bit more afterwards, but she also resigns after like 20 years with the organization.
No doubt. And as Gabe was saying, we got JV, John Vanner, joining us from URI, as we've talked about. So we'll wrap up around town once we talk to JV. But JV, can't thank you enough for joining us. You got the Boston Sports Bros here. So myself, Gabe, and Sam all went to URI and got to see you at many games, take the mic and get us hyped up in the ruckus or whatever it was called prior to the ruckus. And we got Big E, who went to UMass. So a little bit of a rivalry there. and J Matt, who Johnson and Wales guys, so not too much on the college basketball from his own team, but New England college hoops, and followed and has been to several games with us over the years. So JV, how are you tonight? What a background you got too. You're gonna have to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's the first thing people ask about. But thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here. Sorry, we have a UMass guy on the call. On the pod.
What can I do? What can I do?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one thing. I actually married a UMass alum, so I'm quite familiar with UMass, and my whole family gives her a little crap about it, but no hard feelings. What'd you say?
We're a culture fan base.
Yeah, exactly. But happy to be here with you guys. Excited to talk to you.
Awesome. Thanks for jumping on. As I talked about, myself, Gabe, and Sam went to URI, and I think we were there for the last year, the Jim Barron era, and then Hurley took over. So some good times while we were there. That was me. Gabe and Sam were there a little bit earlier with Jim Barron and those years. But talk to us about your URI background. How the hell did you get involved with the team and land that gig? And then the amount of time that it spanned, that I think nobody expected it, even yourself.
Yeah, absolutely not. So I just got UR running through my blood, man. My dad met my mom there back in the day. And he actually was a student teacher while she was going to school there. They got married while they were attending URI. He actually worked in the athletics department for about 42 years as one of the associate athletic directors at URI. Oddly enough, I did not get this gig because of him. It would be classic Rhode Island nepotism to just have him hand me the microphone. But that wasn't the case. I was interning at Clear Channel Radio for Steve McDonald, who I'm sure you guys all know. And they were looking to enhance the experience for the crowd at RHODY games. And they knew I went there. They knew I was a big fan and went to all the games anyways, so asked if I would be willing to do it. So it was a big roll of the dice. That was 2008, 2009 season. It was my last year at RHODY. And you're right. I did not anticipate doing it for 16 seasons. It was just crazy. I don't know. I went out there. They just gave me a microphone and had me play some games and hype the crowd up. I had no idea what I was doing. I know I was really bad early on. And then it just kind of organically grew to me like being like the de facto leader of the ruckus. And, I started doing kind of my own thing. And I don't know. And I just one day I woke up and everyone's like, everywhere I go around the whole state, people are like whispering "RHODY, RHODY, RHODY" at me. The whole thing's just still bizarre to me. I don't know.
No, yeah, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to get us RHODY fans riled up, but you certainly help us in that aspect.
Yeah. And honestly, Gabe, you guys know those later Barron years, those were lean years. Like there wasn't a lot of people at the Ryan Center for those years. So there were times early on when I was doing that in front of like, I don't know, 2,000 people, right? And obviously it's fluctuated over the years, but yeah, it was rough sledding early on. But there was a lot of good times mixed in there as well.
Nice. Yeah, JV, let's talk about this year's team a little bit. They've got a pretty good record. They've won some really close games that we'll talk about in a little bit. Do you see this team at all? I guess we would start with maybe making a push for like an A10 championship, and then from there, do you see them like pushing for even like maybe a tournament spot or maybe NIT, anything like that in their future?
Yeah, honestly, I think all options are still on the table. I think an at-large bid is probably not going to happen at this point, right? We probably would have had to, based on the strength of the non-conference schedule, we probably should needed to be like a maximum of like 2 or 3 losses in the A10.
Oh, okay.
Could we go on a run and could it still happen? Yeah, right. But I do think we definitely have a chance as long as we play to our potential and stay healthy, right? I think some of these recent losses were really due to just having kind of nobody to play off the bench, right? You had both Fuchs and David Green on the bench for a couple games, but I still think our ceiling's really high, right? We've seen what these guys can do, especially in crunch time. If they play their game and play tough, I can't see a reason why they couldn't make it to the top four and get a double bye in the A10 tournament and then make a little run there. And to be honest with you, even if they don't, the way that the A10's like playing out right now, it's just utter chaos and cannibalism. So even if they don't do that, I could see them being a 6, 7 seed and running the table and then getting a bid, right? So I honestly don't know. It's just pure chaos, which is why I kind of love the A10.
Kraz, take it away.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on Sebastian Thomas a little bit and the year that he's been having our own Rhode Island guy?
Yeah,
I gotta say
man.
myself, I'm a fellow Rhode Islander and URI guy. My dad went to URI as well, and all my grandparents did. So I get it. I get the
Yeah, you get it, right? It's we bleed Keeney blue, as they say. But yeah, man, Sebastian's like you couldn't write a better story, right? This sounds like it's made up in some like corny Disney sports movie or something, right? The hometown kid, and as you guys know, RHODY doesn't usually,
yeah.
get hometown
Aside from the
kids.
Barons,
Yeah, well, exactly.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Barons.
That was a
Besides
little bit of
that,
nepotism there, I think.
yeah, speaking
A
of
little bit.
nepotism,
Well,
right?
I mean, and nothing against them. They were really great basketball
Yeah.
players. My best friends all went to Hendricken, and they played with both of them, and they had nothing but good things to say about them. But still, nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Jimmy Barron was the all-time 3-point scorer ever in the A10 until just this year, I believe. Somebody broke the record. But anyways, yeah, the local guys don't tend to stay at URI or even PC for that matter, right? If they do, they're maybe the best player at like Classical or Hendricken or LaSalle, and they're kind of like a walk-on or a preferred walk-on, right? So, the fact that Sebastian decided to come here, the first 2 years, he didn't look like much, right? He struggled to play against better competition. He was nowhere near the player that he's blossomed to become, right? You saw flashes here and there, but it wasn't much. And then he takes off, understandably, to go to Albany, right? Maybe a little bit lower of a conference to maybe see what he could do there, and he blossoms, right? He's the player of the year for Albany. He's putting up like 20 points a game, and then he comes back here, which I couldn't believe. You never hear that happening, right? On top of all the things we just talked about, that never happens. Guys don't come back to where they left, right? So for him to come back, play how he's played, it's like you can't write a better story. The kid has ice water running through his veins, right? I mean, I can't believe there's been what, 4 buzzer beaters or game winners right now in crunch time. Like I don't think there's a more clutch player, not even in the A10, but the NCAA at this point. I don't think anybody can say that. So I don't even know what to say.
He's been it's such a joy to watch because his stature, he's Isaiah Thomas like in terms of his stature and being like 5'9", 5'10", that left hand, like he just reminds me of IT, the lefty shot, the floaters, just like pulling up from three and drilling it, and Bryce Hopkins' eyeball was one of the best things I've seen in so long. Beating PC, we've always been little brother. It's usually I can't talk to you about how many games I think I've watched with Gabe versus URI and PC, and they get to the end, and you're just like, all right, they've kept it close, but you know what's coming. And for this year to turn out the way it did was really awesome to see. But we want to talk a little bit more about just like college hoops overall and things that are going on. So J Matt, take it away on that side of things.
Yeah. Hey JV, J Matt here. So in your overall opinion, I think we're halfway to 3/4 of the way through the college basketball season, roughly about with
Fair
the
enough.
tournament like what, 2 months away?
Yep.
Do you see any clear favorites, maybe like a Duke with Cooper Flag, or is there maybe another team that you think that is going to make a serious run for the tournament?
I mean, I love to hate Duke, right? It's one of my favorite pastimes, but they've got a squad this year, right? Flag is, he's like the real deal, and he's like the prototypical Duke player too. It's like he was built in Coach K's dream lab, even though I know he's not coaching there anymore. But he's like the prototypical Duke dude that you want, like you love to hate. That is just unbelievable, right? I think they're a legit contender. Obviously Auburn is playing really well right now. Who else? Iowa State is really good. Alabama's my team right now. I am thoroughly enjoying those guys play. Also got the old school RHODY connection there with Preston Murphy on the staff at Bama. Can't also ever count out UConn, right? I know they've kind of had some slip ups this year. Hurley, a three-peat would be, I don't even know. I don't think it's going to happen, but you can't count them out the way they've been playing. I don't know. I think those are 4 or 5 teams that I've seen and think have legit shots at winning. What about you guys? You guys got any teams that you think are the real deal?
I think Florida sticks out to me. His name escapes me right now, but the giant that they have, he's even bigger than Zach Edey, who we famously called too tall in that game versus Fairleigh Dickinson, where he literally was too tall. There were so many plays where the ball was like low to the ground that he couldn't get to. There may or may not have been some money riding on that game for the underdog. So we were rooting heavily against too tall, but Florida sticks out. I think Duke, and just having a player like Flag, can he sort of just put the team on his back? Saquon Barkley, like as we were talking about before you jumped on, and carry them. Big E, you look like you have a team that's up the sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Auburn. Like Bruce Pearl, excellent coach, right? Like he's been around for a long time, right? Like, yeah, he's one of the best. And also, like, I know that they're coming off some really big wins. They've been a team that's made some noise in the tournament the last couple of years, so this could be their year. The SEC is actually, I think, should be more well known for their basketball right now than their football. The SEC basketball scene is going off right now, so I definitely think someone from there may definitely be coming out, and Auburn right now looks like they're the favorite.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the SEC resurgence for basketball is all mixed in with that football money, right? Especially with NIL, those huge programs like Bama, Auburn, they've got traditional football schools got that extra money now, right, to really build up their basketball teams to be powerhouses like the football teams are. So yeah, I'm with you, man. The SEC's got some teams, and March is always exciting, and I think Providence has a couple. We got first and second round this year at the dump or the amp or whatever you want to call it. So I may have to go check that out before I go to Twin River on my annual pilgrimage.
Wow. That'll certainly be a good time. I think obviously we're going to disagree on our favorite A10 team, and that's okay. But I think outside of our individual, A10 teams, are there any other Boston sports teams that you follow, and what are those teams, and what would you say that your top teams to follow are?
Yeah, I'm kind of a weird mutt when it comes to the teams I follow, right? I'm a big Celtics guy. I grew up in Johnston, so that's the hometown of Joe Mazulla.
Yankees.
So I happen to know Joe Mazulla. We grew up together. I went on vacations with him as a kid. So
did you go to the Gregorio gym?
What? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh boy.
We could go off for a minute. We could go off for hours, but I won't do it.
Is there a Dunks across the street?
Do you know Billy Murphy and Mike Passanella and Eric DiBiasio, Mark DiBiasio. I see. I could go on and on and on, man.
Yeah, All right, Sam. So yeah, Celtics have always they've always been my basketball team. Not a huge hockey guy, but I root for the Bruins. root for the Sox. So I guess more Boston than not, but my football team is the Raiders, right? Which has been a scarlet letter I've had to wear for a very long time because we've been bad for a really, really long time.
You got somebody now as your, a minority owner, so that's not a bad thing.
What'd you say? I'm sorry, I missed that, Eric.
I said you got Brady as a minority owner of the franchise now. That's not a bad thing, right?
I know, not at all, man. I'm happy we got Brady, and I'm hoping we make a good hire as a result, right? I mean, because I don't know. I thought we were going to get Ben Johnson, but it sounds like that's not going to happen. So I've heard a bunch of other good coaches in the mix for the Raiders, and God knows who it's going to be. I've heard everything from, Pete Carroll to Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Flores, Belichick, Deion Sanders. I don't know. I don't know who we're going to get. I hope we hire somebody fast. And hopefully Brady can help kind of steer the ship and right the ship a bit, because I imagine you guys are all Pats fans and are feeling how I felt for a very long time these days.
It's not fun.
No, it's not fun having a poor team, but hopefully the coaching changes for both of our teams lead to more fruitful pastures here. I was with my dad over the weekend, and I was just like, it's such a bummer because these weekends were so fun. Like you knew you were locked in on the couch at a certain point of time. You were planning the food, you were planning who you're getting together with.
Yep. Who's bringing what?
You were debating, what am I wearing the sweatshirt? Am I wearing the jersey? Like
the jinx stick.
So much that goes into the NFL playoffs, and we took it. I don't want to say we took it for granted. I enjoyed every moment of it, but 8 straight AFC championships, obviously the 20-year run, and sorry, JV. I mean, that game versus Philly yesterday in the snow just brought back memories of 01, not gonna lie.
Well, that was what cemented my hatred for the Patriots that game, and I just saw a clip of it yesterday because it was on social media, of course, and just I just Vinatieri hitting those kicks, man, and the fumble and the tuck rule. I mean, still hurts to this day, but yeah, man. I mean, Pats were a dynasty. That was some great football. Got to respect everything that they've done. My wife actually worked for the Patriots for a while, so I did get to, and she's got like a Super Bowl ring. Got to go on one of the parades, I think their last one. So I became a little bit soft towards the Patriots since they kind of paid my bills a little bit for a while. But what do you guys think about the Vrabel hire? I thought that was a no-brainer, right? Were you guys all happy with that?
Oh yeah,
very happy.
Yeah.
Needed to happen.
He's established.
There was there was exactly like you said. There was a culture that needed to be established, and he's the right guy to do that. We think.
Yeah, rolling the dice on a brand new coach is kind of tough, right?
Who hasn't coached?
Yeah, exactly. And he had some success in Tennessee. I think Vrabel is going to be the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I think Ben Johnson really excited a lot of us just because he had that offensive prowess, and that's what the Patriots really need for Drake May at this moment. But again, just kind of scares you off a little bit just because he doesn't have that head coach experience, and Vrabel just brings that immediate culture right back into the building. So again, like we're all saying, no brainer.
Yeah, I can talk. I mean, Josh McDaniels, we hired him, right? Look, on paper, looks like a great hire. Couldn't do it. Couldn't get it done. So it's just like, you just never know, right? Well, then you got NBA, my boy Joe Mazulla. He had zero, his experience was coaching a D3 team, the main Red Claws, and then I guess you never know. But football, it feels like it's really important to have some experience, right? And I think Vrabel will right the ship for you guys, and hopefully invest in May, because I think he could be a real player once he gets some more experience under his belt.
The thing that really excites me about Vrabel is like the fact that he did it elsewhere. He didn't just coach here in New England under Belichick. He did it on his own. He formed his own relationships. He's bringing in other coaches that aren't from the Belichick tree, and we need to kind of change things. So that's the thing that's exciting to me, is not only is he established, but he did it on his own.
Yeah, you got to turn the page, right? I think it's got to be a clean break, and that whole group of guys that performed under Belichick, I think it's a good thing to kind of just bring in some fresh new blood, fresh perspective, and start from scratch. So I'm excited for you guys.
Should hopefully be an exciting year for the Patriots. Hope I'm not making any predictions right now. Got to see how everything unfolds, but we'll certainly be keeping tabs on it throughout the course of the offseason. JV, final sort of questions for you here as we wrap up. You brought up
Yeah,
Missoula, so got to ask any Missoula stories from growing up that stick out, like and
dude.
just I guess more so related to his demeanor on the sideline, like just in
That's
his
how his
view
dad was.
his
Locked
Yeah.
viewpoint.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
So,
point. All great
well,
points.
yeah. So you got to understand, Josh, that the Missoula name in Johnston, where I come up, they're like a legacy. There's like dozens of them, right? Starting with Joe's grandfather, right? He ran our recreation department. And Joe's late dad, Danny, was very close friends with my father. Joe's uncle coached me in middle school and high school basketball. And so Joe was around all the time with his siblings and all his family members, and
Where'd you go to high school?
Johnston High. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So Joe didn't go to Johnston High, but he was
Yeah,
still
you had
around
to
because
go,
his
but
dad
still.
coached at Johnston. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as stories, just like the Mazzullas are just they are a singular type of person, and it's so hard for me to describe. I mean, you guys see it, right? That is Joe and the Mazzullas, right? They are great people, big hearts. They care deeply, but they also have like a short switch, right? Where they can go from 0 to 100 really, really quick, right? It's just, so it's just a trip for everybody that grew up in Johnston and saw Joe and knew the family to see him on this biggest stage, right? I mean, his press conferences are like must see TV, right? He's just Joe. That's all I can say is he is who he is, and for better or for worse, and I love the kid, so I wish him nothing but the best.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it. Kraz is from
Yeah.
Cranston. That's why
Yeah. I'm from
he knows all the
Cranston.
ins and outs of,
And
that region.
my buddy Hoopus played on he was JV when Joe was varsity at Hendrick. And so every day the coach would be like, all right, and they were both point guards. And so, they'd be like, all right, scrimmage up. And then I don't know if you know Steve Russo or not, but Steve Russo's dad was really close with Joe Mazzulla's dad, Dan. They grew up
Dan, yeah,
together in Silver Lake,
yeah.
Johnston area, and they played in that Silver Lake League. I don't know if your dad was part of that league either, but
Yeah, he probably played with all those guys. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean knowing that, knowing those guys in Silver Lake, like just not expect that's what you would expect to see on the sideline with Joe, like 100%.
Exactly. He grew up as a gym rat, and it's great to see him at this level, especially as young as he is. Right.
Yeah.
It still boggles my mind where I'm like, I can't believe this guy is coaching the Celtics, who is, I have vacation photos with this kid, right? Like it's mind boggling, but
I really hope that somebody's listening to this podcast in Johnston, Rhode Island this week is going to pick up a party fucking pizza at one of the bakeries. And it's just like these guys just talk about everything that only these people from this region of the country have any fucking clue what I'm talking about. Like
absolutely.
that was we've gone deep into the files on RHODY. And I think to wrap things up,
So.
the two things to wrap things up. Your favorite URI bar that you partied at when you were at school, and where can people find you on social media and follow you along? I know that you're still the voice of URI fans, if you will.
Yeah. All right. So my favorite, God, I don't know if I can name a favorite. I mean, I love Chuck's. Charlie O's is one of my favorites. I got to shout out Zoo, Bonview. Geez, and then you got Ticket Tuesdays at Ole Miss. Like Ole Miss is is classic. Those are probably my three favorites, right? I spent a lot of time in those dingy. I wasn't in Greek life, but I spent a lot of time at Phi Psi in those grungy basement parties. So that brings back some memories too. I think they got shut down shortly after that. Yeah. Where your feet stuck to the carpet, no matter what was happening. Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little
yeah. But you guys we were probably there all at the same time, just about, right? There was some crossover, it sounds like. Josh, what was the other question besides where I like to party?
Where can people find where can people find you?
True Ram, he's a true Ram.
That's right. You guys can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever, JV401. That's probably the best place to find me, where I pretty much talk exclusively RHODY hoops, RHODY athletics. Maybe I'll tweet about my Severance and my other TV addictions or Lego. As you guys can see behind me, I got a little bit of a problem. But yeah, mostly RHODY stuff. That's where you can find me.
I'm looking at the Avengers Tower in the background, by the way.
It's good stuff right there, right?
Yeah.
I won't pan up or go to the other side. There's a lot. It's turning into a problem. So I gotta clean it up here. Maybe sell some stuff.
There's nothing wrong with Legoing as an adult. I will give you that. If you need
Same
me to
here.
tell your
I have
wife,
my
if you need
own.
me to talk to your wife or anything about it, I got you.
Thanks, Gabe.
My fiance's got your back.
We'll
change
value.
the sticker on the thing, so this was only a $50 set. It wasn't $450.
It wasn't $400 or $500. Yeah, that's a constant. I have to make concessions about what she can buy to even off what this is. But yeah, it's a fun. I honestly I never even touched a Lego until the pandemic, and then what is it? 4 years later now, this is where my life is. So I don't know. Whatever. I have fun. But yeah, JV401, you guys can find me. Always happy to talk about RHODY. I'm sure you guys will still see me out and about. I still do PA for the women's basketball, because I do enjoy doing PA, which I've done for all the RHODY sports over the years. I don't do much anymore except for women's basketball. But yeah, come say hi when you guys see me. Happy to entertain any RHODY fans. I had somebody stop me at the airport coming back from a business trip yesterday. So if you guys want to call me the voice, I will. I'll take that all day.
Wonderful. Well, definitely for us, you're the voice of RHODY. Hopefully we got to get down for a game with the season that they're having. So we'll catch you for one at the Muse Tavern. A lot of Rhode Island talk, a lot of different places that folks can check out. Can't thank you enough for jumping on with us, JV. Hopefully they go on a tournament run. We'll get to talk to you down the line in the season. But take care. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and can't thank you enough.
You got it, Josh. Great meeting and talking with you guys. I hope from your voice to God's ears, let's get RHODY dancing again. That would be great, and I'm happy to come back anytime.
Let's do it.
Appreciate it, guys. Take it easy. All right.
Take care.
Thanks,
Have a good night.
All right. I mean, 2 unbelievable interviews. This episode is obviously going to be our longest one of all time, but I mean the things that we're getting into is just absolutely worth it.
You know how bad it hurts like a bitch stepping on one of those Lego bricks. Oh my God.
That's a That's a episode.
Dug in my skin.
Not great. Really can't thank Sam and JV enough for jumping on, and we're obviously bobbing and weaving here in terms of the episode and which ways we're going, but so much great conversation. But let's take this bus on down home and wrap things up. We left off on Robin Glazer leaving the Patriots after an almost 20-year stint. So anything on Robin Glazer, and then we'll move on to some quick notes on the Celtics, Bees, and Sox, and wrap things up with the Pike.
Just a quick note on Robin Glazer. I don't know if you've seen Bill Belichick on Pat McAfee, but
I was just about to say that was my takeaway.
He kind of seemed like there was no love lost there. So, I kind of wonder how much of a deterrent she was towards the end here. And, was she really setting Gerard up for success? And, I think, again, getting someone from the outside, Mike Vrabel, coming in and saying, hey, those things that you were doing before, you're probably not going to be doing here. Writings on the wall. I don't know if it was a firing or resignation. But I'm all for change right now, and especially change anywhere at the top besides ownership. Let's do it because we need to make some change here with this team.
I think, you talked about Belichick, but I think if anything, it's a signal that Vrabel is coming in and he has the control of the wheel. He is at the cockpit steering the boat right now, and he is the captain. Like, it is what he wants. It is who he wants as his deck mates and so on and so forth. And so that's what I'm most excited about, is that they've given him the keys to run with it and sort of flush out his own staff. Parting thoughts, Biggie.
Yeah, did you guys see Taylor Lewan's like message right after Vrabel got hired? He was like, "Hey, Patriots fans, congratulations! Like, you guys got a great head coach." And then to the players, like, "Keep your head on swivel. Like, he's going to ask you all these questions." Like, it brought back the excitement of like the early 2000s Belichick. And I know, again, we're trying to separate Belichick and Vrabel because they're obviously different people, but just like that hard ass mentality of like, you better know all the details about like not just the person you're going up against, but anyone on the opposite end of the field. So I'm excited. I'm jacked up.
Keep those buttholes tight.
Yes, sir. As we know.
That's right.
Well, well, we're gonna keep that one up the sleeve and put that out there when we might need it, depending on any sort of moment. But the one thing we're gonna transition now to the Celtics and Bruins talk. Let's start with the C's. And one thing that they needed after what's been a bad week sort of for them is this evening, right as we're recording, they wrap up a blowout of the Golden State Warriors, winning by 30 plus. But let's rewind, sort of recap the week. Big E takeaways from the week that was for the Celtics, and any notes from any of the games.
Yeah, just like the hustle wasn't there in a couple games, especially against the Toronto Raptors. It was a really disappointing game. They've had some really atrocious 3-point shooting, not just these past 3 games, or it's been going on a little bit longer. It was nice to see them kind of get off and shoot a little bit better tonight, even though they still had issues shooting the three. But clearly that's been how this team goes. They either do well when they shoot threes, or if they're missing a lot of threes, they're going to tend to do bad. It was nice to see a good win against the Magic, a team that has been an up-and-comer and has been doing well. And disappointing that they're losing to these teams that they should be beating. So I don't really think there's much to be saying right now besides the fact that they are kind of an enigma. They're a 500 team. I think it's better this is happening now, but I'm still not panicked, but the panic meter is starting to elevate slightly.
Not at all. Steve Kerr said it today.
Yeah,
he said,
Kerr.
Celtics fans, don't worry about it. This is completely normal. Big Joe Murray. Also, I didn't get to listen to it because I was, I had gotten home by that time. But he had also mentioned that a lot of championship teams kind of fall into these slumps mid-year. They obviously, we talked about in the last episode, 3 of our guys went to go play very high intense basketball after playing a whole entire season up until the finals. And then, you get into the season and you have this big adrenaline rush and you go on this run. And I think they just hit a wall. And Gabe and I were talking, and this team needs the All-Star break bad. They need to rest. They need to chill out, decompress, get some rest in, regenerate, and make that final push. In my eyes, that was my biggest takeaway.
Well, I think the issue is that 2 of the players who need to rest the most are Jalen and Jason, and they're likely to be attending All-Star Weekend. So it's great for the rest of the team, but not everyone's going to get the R&R that's needed.
Speaking of the Jays that you just mentioned, Eric, them having both. I mean, well, obviously Jalen didn't have a big summer, but he had obviously a big. They had a long run last year, but Jason is averaging 36.5 minutes right now, and Jalen's averaging 35.7. I thought at the beginning of the year when we had the conversation before the season started that we were really keen on minutes restrictions and kind of making them not so they're going to be playing this so many minutes throughout the season and kind of saving them for a little bit towards the stretch run. And I'm really curious to see what Joe does down the stretch to see if he does start to rest him a little bit more down, because the 1 seed I think is out of they're 6.5 games back. The 1 seed is going to be a really big feat to have Cleveland slip up, which they've only lost 6 games. And then you have New York, who's been slipping up themselves, who's 4-6 in the last 10. So I really think the Celtics are kind of solidified in that 2 spot right now. So it's almost, you got to think about rest a little bit and how that plays into the rest.
Yeah, I think part of the reason too why the minutes are so high is there have been a lot of injuries with the starting 5 and with this team so far this year. So they're kind of in a good spot now where people are starting to be healthy. So I'm really hopeful that means that we're going to start seeing a little more rest for Tatum and Brown, whether that means an occasional game that they sit or holding them closer to 30 minutes per game, because we know that we're going to need them for a long run come May and June.
No doubt. We brought up the All-Star game, and I think that hopefully, they'll play, but both of them have sort of won their accolades and done what they've wanted to do in the All-Star game. So, Tatum won the MVP, scored the most points. Brown had a great game last year. So hope exactly as Kraz just said, back seat for that. Really, really great slate of games if you're up in a late night owl this week, as they're out on the West Coast taking on both of the LA teams back to back on Wednesday and Thursday. So Clippers Wednesday, Lakers Thursday. I think if you're going to choose one, you stay up for that Lakers game. And then a rematch of the finals on Saturday in prime time on ABC. Celtics and the Mavs. I don't know if Luka will be playing with his injury, but it will be great to see them match up, and it's always great to hopefully stick a loss into Kyrie.
NBA All-Star thought for me. We'll love to see Peyton Pritchard in the three-point contest. So not sure if that's the range this year, but I think just with some of the shots he's made throughout, the year Curry-esque, it would be cool to see him participate in that contest.
All for that. All for that.
Take.
Great take, Biggie. Hopefully we see that. We've had a couple Pritchard takes that should hopefully come to fruition this year. So let's turn the page onto the black and gold, another team who's just sort of up and down all over the place. Coming off a win today in a matinee at the Garden. 6-3, I believe, was the final score in the game versus Sharks. But Gabe, rewind the week for the Bruins and the ups and downs of this fucking team.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could start with today's game. It just happened. They had a matinee against the San Jose Sharks. 6-3 final score, like you said. It's probably looks. It was definitely closer than it looks. I would say that game was back and forth, 3-3 for a while, and they were finally able. The Bruins were finally able to kind of put some pucks away in the net and put that game away. One thing I noticed from that game, a line that is starting to turn my head at least a little bit, this Marchand, Coyle, and Patra line. Since Matthew Patra has been up, this team's offense has looked a little bit better, to be honest. He first played against Tampa Bay, which was where we last left off the podcast. It was his first game since being called back up. He gets an assist on the first goal of the game. He's now on this line with Marchand and Coyle making a difference. I think he had 2 assists today. So if you look at these scores, 6-2 in a win, 6-5 in a shootout loss, and then 6-3 in another win. I mean, that's a lot of goals in the past 3 games.
And what was it that you talked about that they were lacking these last, 10 episodes was offense, and now they're starting to put that together.
It's like it's like a kind of total reverse going on right now, where that you're seeing this team score a lot of goals, it's kind of covering up maybe some defensive issues that are going on with this team right now. I mean, there are a lot of injuries on the defensive side, but I don't know. I am so up and down with this team. I don't know how to feel about them at all. They go down 2 goals against Ottawa, and I'm like flipping the channel, like, oh, again, here we go. And then it's like,
just get hot at the end of the season.
Yeah. So I mean,
stay consistent, get hot at the end of the season.
They're getting points. They're getting points. So
Gabe, I see your optimism, but like, they put themselves in such a bad position at the beginning of the year, and also that 5-6 game losing streak that they just had a couple weeks ago, that they are in the playoffs right now by 1 point, but that's with teams that have what, like Eric's been saying, and it's really coming to become a real issue, is the games in hand. Like it really is. So right now in the Atlantic, they are not in a top 4 team right now. They are tied for, I guess, 4th, if you want to say that. But Ottawa, who they're tied with, has 2 games in hand, so that's a potential 4 points. And then Montreal, who's behind them by 2 points, has 2 games in hand, so that's another 4 points. And then you got to really think about even Detroit, who's been tearing it up, who has 46 points with also 2 games in hand. So it's like, yes, even if the Bruins do take care of what they're supposed to be doing, they really have to. Other teams have to start falling. And that's the thing that really sucks about hockey, is with the extra point and all of that what our friend Adam Jones likes to say is the pity point. It really can hurt your team. And that's what I think is showing right now, is they really put themselves in a crappy spot. And we'll see if they can pull out of it, but they need some help along the way.
Yeah, Columbus is also a team that I put in that mix too, Josh. They're like right behind at one. They're 51 points, we're 52, and they have 2 less games than us as well. So it's a weird position to be in. With that being said, I think we are seeing some positive signs.
Yes.
So like, I want to take a little bit of an intermediate between where you are and where Gabe is. I think it's good they're scoring goals. I think it's good that this stuff is starting to happen. Is there too much of a deficit that needs to be made up from mistakes earlier in the year? Maybe. But like anything, if this team gets hot at the right time, can they go on a run? I think the hockey in the Stanley Cup Finals or Stanley Cup playoffs, there's no other playoffs like it where you can go in as an 8 seed and actually come out and win. You know, we all like to think that that's possible in these other sports, but it's really kind of a pipe dream. In hockey, it is possible. So, do I think that they're going to go on a run like that? I think it's probably not likely, but it is something that could happen. So, until we get there, and there's a lot of things that can happen and change. So, I'm hopeful to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but it's an uphill climb for sure.
At this point of the year though, it's tough because like Eric, you're saying, we're really thinking about making to the playoffs and someone getting hot and you getting a hot goalie and going on a run, but they have to make the playoffs right now, and that's the thing right now that's different this year than the past couple of years is they're not in a position where they are right now that they're in the playoffs. They're 1 point, and that's not really cutting it right now. So they have a lot of things to turn around. And Gabe, you said they have been, but they just have to consistently do that, and they haven't shown us that this year. And that's what they have to do is just be consistent.
Yeah, and I mean, you can also turn like being close in the standings into a positive, just saying like you would hope that this motivates the team. These games coming down down the stretch now are going to be like all playoff-esque, like really intense NHL games after the All-Star break, or after even the trade deadline. Like there's not many games left. These teams are going to be going at it just because of, like you said, the standings are so close. I hope that the Bruins see it as an opportunity to take it, like go and get it, like get those points, like get into the playoffs and see what you can do, as opposed to kind of like taking the back burner and just playing out the season kind of how it seems like they are right now a little
Yeah,
bit.
like don't limp in, like go get it. Don't limp into the playoffs. Like make a statement, like even try and climb the ladder a little bit if you can in the standings. Like that's what we want to see.
I think they're certainly going to have to anyway. I was looking ahead towards like the next couple of months of their matchups, and a lot of the teams that they're playing are either in the playoffs or fighting for contention. There aren't many that I would say are like, oh, they have a layup game here and there. So they're really going to have to earn it and show us that they want it by winning consistently. And off to a great start this last week, getting 5 points. Keep it rolling. Like you can't just have this 1 week stretch and then go on another 3 or 4 game losing streak. You got to be consistent and keep winning.
Gotta keep accumulating points in each of these games, and really, as we talked about, winning in regulation if you can. That game versus Ottawa was really tough, where they gave up the goal late and then losing.
Similar to the game in Florida too. I mean,
yeah,
this team definitely has troubles closing out games late, and that if that continues to trend, if we continue to trend in that direction, this team's toast.
Cooked. Shout out to Ty Anderson, who every time there's a goal at the end of the period, I think under a minute or 2 minutes to play, he's been keeping a log throughout the course of the season. And this is for first, second, and third period, but I want to say there's over 20 goals that have occurred in the last 60 seconds of a period over the course of the year for the Bruins. Check out Ty Anderson on Twitter. If you search his post, even in the past couple of days, you can find that log. So let's wrap things up. There's not too much going on baseball-wise, but Kraz, give us a quick baseball minute. Anything? I think there was one notable thing that came out of Red Sox Nation this past week. Some good news.
Yep, we signed our leadoff hitter, Jaron Duran, to a $3.85 million arbitration deal, which I figured they would, kind of meet in the middle. If they were at 3.5, he was at 4. I figured they'd be in the 3.75 range, so right where we want. Probably due to the off the field issues that he had, but whatever, that's probably all internal at this point.
Was he in Washington, D.C. today?
Probably. He's
wasn't outside.
Well, actually, so believe it or not, fun fact about Jaron Duran, if he wasn't a baseball player, he said he'd be a Marine. Neither here nor there. But Santander is now off of our list. He signed I believe, a 4-year deal, 5-year deal worth $90 million with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Hey, Sam,
Tanner
Bregman.
Bregman. Well, I've been hearing more rumors about Arenado than Bregman, but I would take either one. I mean, at this point, we need a right-handed bat and a vocal leader in the clubhouse. Hopefully, Trevor Story can stay healthy enough to be that guy. We'll see. It does seem like there's going to be some stiff competition at second base if they don't sign someone like a Bregman or an Arenado, or trade for an Arenado between Christian Campbell and Vaughn Grissom. So we will see what's going on there. Both of them are right-handed bats. So I don't know if in the back of their mind they're like, okay, if we don't sign a right-handed bat, we're good because we have these two guys coming up. I hope they don't think that because we need an actual right-handed bat that has major league talent or that has proven at the major league level that they can hit from the right-handed side of the plate. Other than that, Tanner Scott is off the books. He signed a 4-year deal with the Mega Dodgers. Everyone's calling them the evil empire. I love the Dodgers, so I don't really care. It's not the Yankees, so who gives a shit? As long as it's not the Yankees, who cares? So that happened as well. And Roki Sasaki, as we all assumed, also signed with the Dodgers to make
Just
their
call them the
rotation
Japan Dodgers now. Like
absolutely filthy. So I mean, again,
It's-
there's a lot of talent on that. There's a lot of talent on that team, and it's hard. It can be hard.
I just have a problem with how they're paying their players with it all being deferred and not paying up front. Like, to me, there's some like swirly things that are going on there that to me are kind of, not exactly above board, and hopefully things change due to them. I don't hate the fact it's the Dodgers that's doing these things. I just hate the spirit of how they're going about it. Like, they signed Otani to this crazy deal, and he's not even going to start making any money off that deal for like another decade. That to me is insane.
Yeah.
But
That's only endorsement money.
To counter your point, though, like, couldn't any of these other teams structure a deal like that if they wanted to? Like, they could, if John Henry wanted to open up the wallet. But here's the other thing: like, the players have to be willing to do that sort of thing. I don't really get it. I think the Sox have, as we talked about last week, the Fenway Five is currently sitting in their seats. Like, they've made enough moves to hopefully go out and have a competitive season this season. If you bolster that lineup with the right-handed bat and add another arm to the bullpen, I think like we're looking at a legitimate baseball season ahead, and that's all I've asked for. I think is, as we've talked about, like, there's really nothing quite like it when the Sox are good. You get into August and September, and like there's a palpable buzz around baseball in Boston. So that's all I'm hoping for. Like, get us to that stretch of the season where we're not out of it. And I think that they've done a decent job, but go make one big splash this offseason and really get the buy-in back from the fan base, get the wheels in motion where it's a fucking truck day. It's like, all right, like you can, when you start to smell baseball in the air, you get excited for it. We're not that far away. We really aren't.
Daniel Navaday, 66, baby.
And I think I've been hearing like they're kind of slowing down on signing of Bregman or trading for Arenado because they have future plans of possibly wanting to get Vlad Guerrero Jr. So I think that plays a big role in kind of their dealings
Spend
right
next
now.
year.
So
That's your right-handed bat.
This year will probably be better, but I think give it another year or 2 or 3, and this team will be probably contending for championships again. Hopefully, the Dodgers. I mean, who the hell's beating the Dodgers at this point? But
for sure,
so never know if there's any moves that'll be made in season as well. So like if this team is fully constructed as it is today, I don't think this is where it's going to look at the end of the season. So lots of things to come between now and then, and excited to have some hopeful, meaningful baseball this fall.
No doubt.
This summer.
Yeah.
Summer, yeah. Seriously. Let's talk about
Usually
August.
it's been May
Too
or
cold.
Let's make it to August, because we haven't made it to August in a couple of years since 2021.
We started the podcast at the beginning of August last year. We were really fortunate to have the Gerard Mayo sort of started training camp and the Olympics going on at that time as things we were talking about. But that period between the end of NBA season to when that stuff starts to ramp up, God willing, we have a baseball team that's doing well, that we have a lot to talk about. Otherwise, we're going to have some extended yeahs and yeah-ohs and those sorts of things.
Stuff to talk about. We hope it's positive, because if not, we will be laying in to your Boston Red Sox and the ownership office.
Henry.
Probably not the manager, because we all like Alex Cora, but everything else is on this fair game.
I hope it's positive. Gabe, wrap us up on the Sox.
Quick nugget that I heard, kind of tying in hockey and baseball and John Henry. Apparently the Pittsburgh Penguins, which the Fenway Group owns, John Henry's company, they are going to be a complete fire sale at the trade deadline, trading away veterans, pending free agents, pretty much getting rid of everything and starting over there. So I wonder if that's just more of the John Henry effect, kind of coming in and kind of
ruining,
having some success, and also just completely like ruining
then
franchises.
just fucking shitting the bed.
He just likes his vanilla ice cream. Just give him his vanilla ice cream, and
He likes twist. Okay, come on.
Hockey was
He
too
likes a nice
adventurous for him.
Big E.
Big
I think we've hit. I think we've
Take
hit.
it
Our,
away.
I think we've hit that segment.
all right, guys, it's good to be back this week, and it's time for my favorite segment of the week. It's time for yell, and can I get a?
He broke the mic. He broke the mic.
Literally.
I think
your mic has just been broken.
Your
this
mic
whole
is
show.
Yeah, the
not-
whole-
yeah, what's going on
I-
with your mic, Eric?
your mic needs a visit from R2S2 to get in there.
Hey,
and,
my computer's on a flat desk, so leave it alone.
Let's try that again. That was
oh
so good.
man, it's all good. All right, fellas.
Well,
Not too many. Oh yes, but J-Mac, kick it off.
I gotta. Oh yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Playoff football, snow games doesn't get better than that. The nostalgia that brings us back to 2001 with the Patriots and the Snow Bowl, and them
Or that
trying
Tennessee
to
game.
clear off the snow for the kicker for Terry. So yesterday seeing that in Philadelphia was pretty cool. I loved seeing that, and there was a little bit in Buffalo. There was snow on the ground, but it's that time of year where you just love to see the weather games come into play.
So much
and
better
those,
when
and those
you're
West
bundled
Coast
up
teams
and they're
can't
all
handle
cold.
it. They just can't handle it.
For you guys, we're gonna get a little mulligan. We're gonna try this again. We've reset up the mic. We're gonna get a. Oh yeah, that's much better. There we go.
Oh, we gotta do the whole episode.
Can I get
over
no
now.
yeah?
The whole episode.
Yeah.
Hit up Sampson. Hit up JV.
Yeah, come on back. We're gonna do another 2 hours.
We're gonna do it all over again.
We're just starting the episode here. Hey yo, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah.
That sounded like you were like falling down a hole.
It was so good.
We now his mic is probably the best out of all of ours, so
For sure.
It's all good. We're still making sure everything sounds good, and let's wrap things up here, fellas. I know it's a short but we had a super long episode, but we sort of found our way into this segment last week, and I actually had a perfect intersection with the Pike. And we're gonna start this up on future episodes called the Time Capsule, sort of going back as people have heard obviously today on this episode, stories about our times at Ripe Show, stories about our time at URI and JV. So some more things like that that we'll bring up amongst the five of us, and things that we recall from childhood, growing up in this area, college years, so on and so forth. But this weekend, I had the pleasure of going out to the Berkshires with the family, spending a little time out there, and brings up going out on the Pike, and you're just on the road out there for 2.5+ hours. We get off at the famous rest stop in Lee to go to our place out there, where you have the God's corner of a Dunkin', McDonald's, gas, and the Devil's Lettuce all right there for you. And just made me think about, what sort of memories do you guys have about driving out on the Pike? Any trips, anything that sort of sticks out to you over the course of the years?
Yeah,
I remember.
Go for it.
No, I was gonna say I remember driving back on the Pike. I remember driving not on the Pike to visit Eric out at UMass. Shout out UMass Amherst. Partied, had a great time. I was really young. I was probably way too young to be at UMass.
Way too young to be there.
Way too young. But hey, that's a story for another day. Impending snowstorm was coming, and I had to get home. And my parents came out and were very, very nice enough to drive back to all the way from Andover in about probably 4 hours of snow. So yeah, definitely one of those trips back. But definitely, UMass was a trip. It was a trek on the Pike out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think Josh just took mine. Mine was going to be treks out to UMass on the Mass Pike. I didn't always travel that way to UMass, just because we had some other means to get there through Route 2 and Route 202. But definitely had some fun ventures on the Pike, and then also going out to some other fun places out there like Springfield, Westfield, stuff like that. So good times had on the Pike, and I now live pretty much on the Pike, so I am on the Pike all the time.
You are the Pike.
I am the Massachusetts Turnpike.
Oh man, I spent a lot of time on the Pike growing up, going back and forth from Philly and Boston, and one staple that always stuck with me was stopping at Ryan's Deli in Connecticut. Like that's just I mean, you kind of have to. It's just it's
a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage when you're traveling that way. Also, maybe not the Massachusetts Turnpike, but the New Jersey Turnpike. We used to always stop at the Vince Lombardi rest stop. I think it was the first one when you got off of the George W. GW Bridge.
It's where champions go to eat.
It is, and I think it's recently renovated too. So you might have a Chick-fil-A in there now.
Ooh, doggy. Kraz, any Pike memories for you? I know
Yeah.
you're more of a 95 guy.
No. No. Ed brought us, when my dad growing up as an Eagle Scout, so rightfully so. Being the cheapo he is, he was like, I'm not going to send my kids to scouts. I'll just show them. I'm not going to pay some guy to show my kids how to put up a tent. I'll do it. So we spent a lot of time up in northern Mass, right on the Mass, New Hampshire line. We've gone camping all over the Northeast. We've done a bunch of the White Mountains, pretty much all of the New England White Mountains. So yeah, I mean, we'd use that road a lot. Listening to Bob Marley, legend on a CD player that was connected to a cassette. So yeah, that's you can date me by that.
You said scouts.
I
Saw some Girl Scouts the other day at Starbucks and just
Did you get some
ham.
cookies?
I bought like 6 packages of cookies. I don't know why. It just
Support
brought back
flavors.
nostalgia. I feel like I don't do it every year, so I just
The
kinda
s'mores ones are pretty
Thin
bomb
Mints.
now, but Thin
Thin
Mints are
Mints.
always the go-to. Throw
Got
those
2
in the
Thin Mints.
freezer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every Girl Scout cookie is elite. I mean, and whenever somebody might have them, or as you said, you stumble upon a table at your local grocery store or coffee shop, it's like, I really hope that I have cash in my wallet right now because I'm definitely
Oh,
down.
they take
Although,
Venmo
Y'all,
now.
I was gonna say, y'all
Yeah,
take Venmo.
Oh, they take
they'll-
Venmo now.
Oh, I
Scan
bet
here.
you they do now.
there's probably
Scan here.
Yeah, they definitely any form of payment, but all good stuff. The Pike is really the gateway to so many different things all over New England. I think that's really the reason we named it this segment is it can sort of take you anywhere as podcast went this evening. So one of the best episodes, one of the most fun episodes that we've gotten to do. Lots of great things that we talked about, and appreciate everybody tuning in here. So, fellas, any parting words? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Go get our eyeballs on this second half of Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Go watch some football, boys.
Have a good
Great
week,
app.
everyone.
Yeah.
All right,
right.
Dove.
Enjoy the week, boys and girls. Thanks for tuning in here, far wherever you are. We'll see you next time.
Later.